Welcome to Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you retire with purpose and live with joy. Find more information, including how to reach the team, in today's show notes. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens, powered by Ricken Financial.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening to Kick In with the Rickens podcast. We are here with licensed insurance professional Gerry Ricken. My name is Mark Owens. We invite you to get more at rickenfinancial.com. You can get all the information here in the show notes. Thanks again for subscribing. Now, let's get to the show. Gerry, it's a boys' show this weekend. Heidi Ricken Provost not here this weekend. What's going on, buddy?
No, Heidi's out of town right now, so it's just you and I hanging out together, Mark.
Yeah, because you know something? Every now and then I need some time with my man, Gerry. Don't tell Heidi I said that, but every now and then I need a little man time. Well, that sounded weird.
Just FYI, she does listen to this.
What I meant to say was tell Heidi I miss her. And Heidi, if you're listening, we miss you. It's just not the same without you. I don't know if we can do this. Is that working?
Exactly.
Is that okay? Hey, I hope you're having a great weekend, Gerry. And I want to kick things off about talking about the purpose approach. And it's something you offer exclusively at Ricken Financial. And we say it every week, retire with purpose and live with joy. What is the purpose approach?
Well, the purpose approach is simply our term for our process when we meet someone. And let me explain that process just a little bit more in depth. We call it the purpose approach because when you are working during your working years, you have a purpose in life, and that purpose is primarily supporting the organization that you are employed by, whether that's your own company or you're working for someone else. And it feeds your soul. And if it doesn't feed your soul, then we probably need to talk to you earlier rather than later to find something that does feed your soul. But by feeding your soul, I mean, you have purpose every day. You're going in, you're contributing, and you're making a difference. You're making a difference in the organization, in people's lives. We want to make sure that when you close that door for the last time and leave the office and say, I'm retired, we want to understand what your purpose is. We want you to understand what your purpose is and what will feed your soul to and through retirement, because we have to have something to do, because all of a sudden, 8 to 10 hours of your day, 5 days a week, is going to be freed up. What are you going to do in those 8 to 10 hours? And maybe you've already have that figured out. Maybe you're volunteering. Maybe you have a part-time, you have hobbies, you have passions. You want to spend more time traveling. You want to spend more time with the grandkids. You want to do something, and you have that already in your life. But most people, a lot of people, I can't say most, a lot of people don't have that. So we want to just spend some time because we want you to be happy in retirement. Live with joy. We talk about living with joy, and living with joy is being happy and being content with what your retirement life is. Some people come into us and say, oh my gosh, I'm busier in retirement than I ever was while I was working. And that's awesome. We love that. But when we talk about the purpose approach, the first thing we're going to talk about is how you're going to spend your time. What are you going to do to really replace that joy you've had, replace that fulfillment you've had while you were working? What are you going to do to replace that in retirement? After we understand your purpose, your wants, your needs, your desires, your goals, your objectives, from a what do I want to do in life now that my working days are over with, then we design our plans around that. Because if we don't understand that, we really don't have a good starting point. We can't really build a customized plan for you that meets all those objectives if we don't know what they are.
Right.
So we look at your income needs. When are you going to take Social Security? Do you have a pension? What's going to happen? Maybe one of you takes Social Security at a different time than the other. And guess what? The day you retire on Monday, you don't have to walk in the Social Security department and say, I need my check. Those 2 days never have to go together. A lot of people have always thought that way. Or I need to take it at 62 because Joe said he takes it at 62. None of this is blanket advice. It's all based on a fingerprint. It's all based on your specific, if you're married, the two of you and your family. If you're single, what is going to be the best for you? So every person and every couple that we meet with, their plan is different. Everything is different. Everything's customized. So what is your income plan? What are your income needs? Do you have periodic needs? Do you have things like the HVAC system? When's it going to go out? When do you replace your cars in retirement? All those things. Do you have weddings to pay for? Do you want to pay for education for the grandkids? Do you want to go back to school? All those things we account for in our income planning. Then we look at your investments. What kind of investor are you? And if you really sit back and truly think about it, when you are in retirement, or actually the 5 years before and the 5 years after your retirement date are the most critical dates in your retirement life. When I think about investments, when I say that, we want to make sure that you are investing based upon your risk tolerance. And what is your risk tolerance? Well, if your risk tolerance is the same at 65 as it was at 25, we probably need to sit back and say, okay, let's look and see what that really means. Are you seriously wanting to invest that way? Mm-hmm. What if something happens in the markets? Because a 25-year-old is typically going to be at 100% in the market and letting it ride and being a very aggressive investor. When you are approaching retirement, near or into retirement, you should probably be a little bit more conservative, unless you've got more money than you know what to do with and you don't care about losing it. And I haven't met one of those people yet. Regardless of the amount of their nest egg, no one wants to lose it to the market 100%. No one wants to be 100% invested, but 100% exposed, so that if the market goes down 20% tonight, you wake up tomorrow and you're happy. Well, you probably won't be happy unless you have analyzed how you want to invest. And when I'm saying analyze how you want to invest, and when I say you as an individual, if you're not married, but you as a collective married couple need to be on the same page. A lot of times we meet with people and one or the other of the couple wants to be more aggressive than the other. So we need to get on the same page and get to a middle ground that they both understand how they want to invest. And then we take a look at how you are investing. And a lot of times we find out that you're not investing the way you want to invest. So that's another piece of the purpose approach. Another piece is healthcare. Are you retiring before 65, or you're 65 or older? Then we look at, what kind of health insurance do you have? Medicare has all kinds of different options. We can point you in the right direction there. But if you're retiring early, is COBRA an option? Does COBRA make sense? Do you need to go out to the marketplace and find something in the interim until you do turn 65? But that's just a struggle that a lot of people have, because Medicare can be so complex because there's A, B, C, D. There's all these different plans. What do they mean? We break those down in plain English, explain those to you, and just guide you along, making sure that your doctors are covered, your drugs are covered, and that you won't have that worry or that burden in retirement. Then we look at estate planning. What's going to happen at the end of your life, or even between now and then? What makes sense? Does a trust make sense? Does a will make sense? Does neither one make sense? You can do it all with beneficiaries or deeds to your beneficiaries. And what accounts belong, if you do have a trust, what accounts should you make the trust a beneficiary of? So a lot of people, they listen to attorneys who really don't understand the tax law that well, and they end up, not making the right decisions when it comes to beneficiaries of some of their accounts, specifically the IRAs, the 401ks. We don't want there to be an inadvertent tax burden to your family in the event you make the wrong decision there. Right. So we want to always make sure you make the right decision. And then we look at life insurance. Life insurance has its place for death benefits and for living benefits. But when we talk about living benefits, we're talking about things like long-term care benefits. You can spend your death benefit down while you're alive. And that's an interesting concept a lot of people have not heard of, or if they have heard of, they don't understand how it works. But while you're alive, you can spend down your death benefit tax-free and pay for long-term care needs if you need it. And that's whether you're in your home or you're in a facility. And most people that we meet with want to be in their home. They want to select their own caregivers, and have that paid for by spending down that death benefit. But the most important thing that we talk about when we talk about your income, your investments, your health care, your estate planning is the word tax. Tax is forward. We are forward thinking in the purpose approach. We want to take a purposeful look at your tax situation. Make sure that you are not paying more than you absolutely have to pay to the IRS. Because, while we're working, we have withholdings. A lot of us have withholdings, or we pay estimated taxes throughout the year and pay that tax along the way. When you're in retirement, you don't have a paycheck coming in from a source, and that withholding isn't happening. We want to make sure that you are withholding the right amount so that you don't have a tax penalty at the end of the year. But more importantly, we want to make sure that you know what's out there on how to tax plan and how to reduce your taxation, because paying taxes in retirement can be very, very, very painful. And why not pay less than more?
It's the purpose approach from the team at Ricken Financial, always focusing on 3 key pillars of your retirement strategy. Always thinking about your risk, always thinking about income in a retirement, and always thinking about your tax strategy. That number, 314-207-6211. Again, 314-207-6211. Earlier in the show, in that first segment, we were talking about, Gerry, the importance of feeding your soul in retirement. But recently, you've been feeding the community. What's going on?
Well, Mark, every Friday during Lent, Our Lady of the Pillar, our parish, has a fish fry. And I'm blessed with the title of dish dog. I do the dishes at those fish fries. But we have a fish fry. It's actually a fabulous fish fry. And we don't feed sole, but we do feed cod, salmon, and shrimp at our fish fries. So we have a wonderful array of all kinds of sides. The desserts are fabulous. The bar is great. The people are friendly. So I would invite everyone out there listening to come by Our Lady of the Pillar. We are located on Lindbergh Boulevard, right next to Chaminade High School. So if you know where Chaminade is, just pull in. There's huge signs that say Fish Fry Friday. It's 4:30 to 7:30 every Friday, including Good Friday. So we would love to see you there, because it's a great community builder, and just, pop in and say hi to the dish dogs. I will definitely say hi to you when you say hello.
Listen, they say the people cooking the fish are the most important. No, I think it's the dish dogs, because you get those plates cleaned and back out there so we can enjoy our fish, right, Gerry?
Well, it's all those big big stainless steel pans that we are famous for cleaning. And if you don't have a clean pan, you can't make a good meal.
Amen. So, that's what I'm talking about, dish dog. Hey, speaking of great events, I know you and the family are a part of a big trivia night coming up, where we can be a part of that.
Camp Braveways, formerly Camp Rainbow, Camp Braveways provides camping opportunities, free camping opportunities to children with cancer, their siblings, and their families throughout the year. And Camp Braveways is having a trivia night on March 21st at St. Margaret Mary Alaco in South County. We would love to have you out there, because the 2 hosts for the evening are my daughter Barbie, who is the pediatric oncology nurse manager at Children's Hospital, and myself. We would love to have you in those seats out there to just have a little bit of fun and support families that are affected with pediatric cancer. This is a very, very special cause for our family, because we are one of those families that was affected by pediatric cancer, with the loss of our daughter Mary Beth when she was a freshman in high school. She got diagnosed when she was in 8th grade at Our Lady of the Pillar, and then her freshman year at St. Joseph's Academy, we lost her. So we are very, very passionate about that, and we always want to give back. So this is a way you can all help us give back. So come out and have some fun, and let's guess some trivia questions.
Yeah, that's right. Let's play a little trivia. You said that was the 21st of this month, all supporting Camp Braveways. And tell me the location one more time.
It is St. Margaret Mary Alaco in South County. And to find out information and to register, go to campbraveways.com. Campbraveways.com. You'll see it out there. It's a trivia night. Click on it, and you'll be seeing my smiling face that night.
And if you want more information about the fish fry, about trivia night, and how you can get involved in Camp Braveways as well, we invite you to reach out at any time to the team at Ricken Financial. Passionate to them. This feeds their soul. 314-207-6211. Again, 314-207-6211. Or you can shoot them a note from the homepage at rickenfinancial.com. Again, at the homepage, you can just simply say, hey, tell me more about the fish fry, or how can I get involved in trivia night, or how can I support Camp Brave Ways. Again, you can shoot the team a note at rickenfinancial.com or give me a call, 314-207-6211. And Jerry, something that we wanted to talk about this weekend is we all have a plan, and you help us build a plan to live. But we also have to prepare for when we die and having a plan for what's next for our family. And this is really hitting home about right now. A lot going on in the Ricken family.
There is, Mark, and we've had some loss recently and during the last year. You know, when I think about longevity, I think about the grandparents in our family. And one of the people that didn't think he would make it past his 60s was my father-in-law. He passed away almost a year ago at age 96. He was the longest living member of the Kriegshauser family, I think, in the history of the Kriegshausers. So, but he always thought he wasn't going to make it because a lot of people, almost every male in his lineage, did not make it past their 60s. But he had a long life. He died at 96. We lost my mother-in-law on Thanksgiving morning at 95. Heidi's husband, Stephen, just lost his grandmother, Nana, almost at 94. We buried my dad on his 95th birthday. My Uncle Joe lived to 100. I went to his 100th birthday party a couple of years ago. So people do live longer. And when you think about people living longer, that means you need to plan for living longer. A lot of people come in and say, oh, nobody ever lives to that. And I start talking about, being invited to a couple of 100 birthday parties of relatives of mine, and they can't believe it. But people do live longer, and we don't have any idea how long we're going to live. Mm-hmm. So we need to prepare for that. We need to prepare for an income plan. I always say, as we want you to have income as long as you have blood pressure. And it just makes so much sense to make sure that you're always protected and that your loved ones are protected. So, a lot of times when you do sit down and think about retirement planning, you don't really think about what happens when you're gone.
Right.
But here's what happens when you're gone. If you're a married couple, one of you passes away. If you had the pension and didn't have a survivor benefit, or if you had a 50% survivor benefit, that pension either gets cut out completely or cut down. The lowest of the two Social Security benefits goes away. But not all of your expenses go away, by the way. Half your expenses don't go away when one of you dies. They just don't. They simply don't. They're out there, and we need to prepare for that. So one of the things you could do is make sure that you have an income replacement tool. One of the most effective and efficient income replacement tools on earth is life insurance. People say, well, I don't need life insurance because all my debts are paid. What about income replacement? That's another huge thing to use life insurance for, is income replacement. And if your pension does go away, do you have a way to replace that income for your spouse? When your Social Securities goes away, how do you replace that income for your spouse? And life insurance, you pay, if you think about life insurance from a death benefit perspective, you pay pennies to get dollars. And people say, well, it's expensive. It's a lot less expensive than using your whole dollars if you use life insurance. So there is, and we're not talking about huge policies here. I mean, you can do things with relatively small policies, turn those into an income stream that come in tax-free. We're always looking to way to make things tax-free for our clients. And this is one of the most beautiful things because it's treated differently in the Internal Revenue Code than any other investment. And people say, well, life insurance is an investment. I will argue till I'm blue in the face that it truly is and has a place in most retirement plans. Because let's talk about longevity and living longer. What about long-term care needs? Have you thought about how you want to be treated and how you want to be cared for in the event you need long-term care? I've just recently learned that 3 of my cousins are affected by Alzheimer's right now. One of them is in her early 70s, another one in late 60s, another one in early 60s. So how does that impact their lives, their families? And is there a way, and they're all at home right now, but eventually they will have to go into a facility because that's just the nature of that beast. And I hope and pray, every day that Alzheimer's will be cured, but we aren't there yet. So when you do think about that, life insurance is a way to handle long-term care. Mm-hmm. And the life insurance companies also have a concierge service. If you buy one of these life insurance plans where you can spend your death benefit down and pay for long-term care coverage tax-free, life insurance company also has a concierge. You say, here's what's happening. Here is what I have. Here's my zip code. Here's my budget. What's out there? And they will do all the groundwork, because a lot of people don't know even where to start when something like that happens, when you have a loved one that needs that kind of care. So if you'd like to learn more about those plans, reach out to us. Call us at 314-207-6211. We would love to have that opportunity to just sit down and understand, first of all, how do you want to be cared for, and how can that happen, and what can that look like in the most tax efficient and economical way.
Yeah. That number again, 314-207-6211. Everybody's got a member of their family who's dealt with their own, struggles with long-term care, with health care. I know my wife, her dad, my father-in-law, he had to get put into memory care. He didn't have to get put. He was put into memory care before he passed away. And thank goodness that my mother-in-law had a plan. They had put all these conversations together. As soon as he started getting sick, they made sure that everything was budgeted out, because it was not cheap. And the reality is, Gerry, without a plan, long-term care, health care, assisted living, man, it can completely diminish all of your life's works without a proper plan.
It truly can. I mean, that's the place where any retirement plan can get destroyed and knocked completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Is not properly planning for long-term care needs.
We mentioned the purpose approach, and retire with purpose, live with joy. It's kind of the mission statement there. But, Gerry, how often do you sit down with somebody for the first time and you go, all right, well, let's start talking about it. Let's start putting a plan together. About how much do you spend a month? What does your budget look like? And Gerry, they look at you and they look at Heidi and they go, we think this much? Man, that seems like a tough place to start.
Well, one of the pillars of the purpose approach is our income plan, and understanding how much income we need to generate in retirement to cover expenses is the basis of the income plan. And people say, I don't want to outlive my income. Well, we need to know how much income you need. And the only way we know how much income you need is, what are your expenses?
Mm-hmm.
And we do have those people when we ask, and it happens more often than not. We say, what do you spend? And they look at us like deer in the headlights, and they're like, we don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah.
So we work through a very, very simplistic approach in that. We say, okay, do you have your phone with you? Yes, they do. Can you log into your bank account? They log into the bank account. What gets deposited, and how often does it get deposited from your current paycheck? So we determine that, and it's 26 pay periods or 24 pay periods or 12 pay periods, whatever it is. We understand how much is being deposited. Then we say, okay, how much of that that's being deposited in your bank account is being saved? And they say, well, I've got my 401k. No, not your 401k, because that comes out before this hits your bank account. How much of that money that comes into your bank account gets saved on a monthly, on an annual much. So then we say, okay, all of it gets spent. Typically, all of it gets spent. When money comes in the bank account, it goes out of the bank account. And we really don't worry about that. Then we say, okay, are you overextended on your credit cards? Are you spending more than what's coming in? And if the answer is no, then we know that basically we have our basis for expenses, and that is whatever's coming in on a monthly basis, your net paycheck. So how do we go from there? Then we say, okay, in retirement, how are you going to spend your time? And that's when we talk about all those things. What are you going to do? And then we determine, okay, what do we need to cover and add to that expense plan to make sure that your wants, needs, and desires are all taken care of. Last week, I met with someone, and she told me, she said, I pretty much have a bucket list. And I have 117 things on this list I want to cross out, and I want to do this in retirement.
Not 110.
Like, wow, that's very specific. 117.
120. Okay. 117.
Yeah, not 115, not 120. It's 117. So 117 things on this list. So we started looking at the list, and some of them just won't require any additional funds, but some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
So we started picking those things apart and adding them to the expense plan and making sure that we could cover those with an income plan. And thankfully, she was a good saver. She's been a good steward of her money, and she was able to do that and more. And it's things like that that we just get into. And when I say that every plan is like your fingerprint, I truly do mean that every plan is like your fingerprint. It is different than everyone else's out there. So the most important thing is just having the conversation and understanding. Some people say, well, I don't take that approach. I just say, how much money are you spending? Okay, that's what we're going to spend, and we're going to increase it by 3%. Well, that isn't really an income plan or an expense plan, because it doesn't hone in on what feeds your soul in retirement and how can we accomplish that, and how can we accomplish the things that you want to do. So if you just want to get started in that conversation, just please reach out to us. Heidi and I are easy to talk to. We're fun to talk to, I think. And that number is 314-207-6211. It just starts with a conversation, and having that conversation won't cost you a nickel. We do all of our planning complimentary. And if at the end of the day, after 3 different sessions that we have, and you decide, we're not a good fit, this doesn't work for us, we're fine. We're fine with that. We'll still hug you. And when we see you at Schnucks, we'll give you a hug. That's just who we are. And we just want to make sure that you understand what retirement aspects you should be looking at, and specifically making sure that we alleviate the fear of running out of income, because that's the biggest fear in most Americans is running out of income, being a burden for someone on their family or on society. And they just, no one wants to do that.
Yeah.
So as long as you have blood pressure, we want you to have income. And how do we develop that? It all starts with, what are your expenses? What are your expenses going to be? And how do we cover those expenses throughout your retirement life?
When somebody comes to you, when you start putting a plan together, what's one of the biggest misconceptions that you find in retirement planning when it comes to income in retirement? Because as you just said, it's still the number one fear. So what is the biggest misconception when it comes to income in retirement?
One of the biggest misconceptions is that what's your asset number that you need? It isn't an asset number that you need. It's an income number that you need. So a lot of people say, well, I can't retire yet because I have $940,000 now, and I need to have $1 million before I retire.
Right.
My question to them is why? Well, that's what I've heard. I heard you need $1 million. What do you spend? What do you spend? That's where the rubber meets the road. What do you spend, and how do we design an income plan, not an asset plan, not an investment plan? The investments are critical. Don't get me wrong. And they can generate income, but we need to understand what your expenses are so we can develop an income plan. A lot of people believe that when they retire, they're going to spend less in retirement than they spent while they were working.
Right.
Well, let me put this out there. Every day is a Saturday when you retire. When do you spend the most money while you're working? On a Saturday, because you go out to dinner, you go to the hardware store, you go to the grocery store, you go to Costco, you go to Sam's, you go to Trader Joe's, you go to Schnucks, you go to Deerberg's. You spend the money because you can't during the week. But during the week, when you're retired, guess what? You don't go to work. You have lots and lots of extra time that you didn't otherwise have.
Yeah.
And you may be going to lunch with people you haven't seen in 20, 30 years. You may be going to visit some relatives you haven't seen in a long time. You may be taking those trips that you've deferred until retirement. Guess what? All those cost money. A lot of people we find are spending more, at least in their initial years of retirement, than they were in their final years of working, because they want to do those 117 things on their list. They want to knock those things off. They want to enjoy retirement and enjoy the fruits of their labor, because they've worked really, really hard. You've all worked really, really hard for your money. Let's make that money work for you now.
Yep.
And the best way you can do that is to design the most effective and tax efficient income plan that is possible, so that you pay less in tax and you spend more in income.
Mm-hmm.
That's our objective. And when we put these plans together, people are surprised that they may have been investing the wrong way with different accounts, your pre-tax accounts versus your post-tax accounts. We have a different philosophy that reduces taxation when it comes to those accounts. So we'd love to have that conversation with you. And people they're floored when we say, okay, if you implement this plan, this income plan, this investment plan, this tax plan, you're going to be saving over $2 million in taxation for the rest of your life. And guess where that $2 million is going? Into your pocket. Yep. And into your beneficiaries' pockets if you pass before you spend it all. But our objective is, We want you to enjoy retirement. We don't necessarily want your kids to enjoy retirement, because a lot of people will come in and say, well, you know, what would you like to do? This happened about 8 years ago when we were talking with a couple. They said, well, we'd like to finally buy a country club membership. We've always wanted to do. And then we'd like to buy a boat. We've been looking at this condo in Florida, and we'd like to get all these things accomplished. And here it is 8 years later. They haven't joined the membership of the country club. They haven't purchased a boat. They haven't purchased a condo, and they're still spending like they've always spent. And that is to save and save and save and save and save. Guess who's going to be, buying the condo, buying the boat, and getting the membership to the country club? It's their beneficiaries.
Yep.
Because they're going to leave a huge, huge legacy behind. But my point is, spend it while you have it, and spend it and enjoy it.
Right.
Because if you don't enjoy it, someone else will. And we'd rather have the smile on your face than anyone else's.
Real quick, can you build a plan, or have you had people ask you, hey, Gerry, I've worked my entire life. I want to live my best life right now, but when I pass away, I'm done. I want that last check to the undertaker. I want it to bounce. Do you have people that want to leave nothing to the family?
We have met those people. And then I just asked them, okay, give me the specific date that you're going to die, and I can design that plan.
Wow. If you find the person that has that crystal ball, let us know. We all have some questions for that person. Hey, 314-207-6211. Again, 314-207-6211. If you take nothing away from this conversation, everybody's plan, everybody's budget, every single retirement strategy is different. And Gerry, I want to continue this conversation about the power of life insurance. Because as we talk about taxes, trying to mitigate your taxes, and we talk about income, life insurance can help, when it comes to retirement planning and our tax situation and having income through retirement. How does life insurance help?
Mark, life insurance is misunderstood by a lot of people. A lot of people think that you use life insurance for one thing, and that is when you're dead.
Yeah.
When you die, a death benefit gets paid to your beneficiaries, tax-free, and you go about your business. And in those plans, you want to put the least amount of premium into a life insurance policy for the greatest amount of death benefit. That's pure and simple. You're paying pennies for dollars, and they're tax-free dollars when they come to your beneficiaries. But in those plans, you, as the insured, do not benefit because you're gone. What I'm talking about is the power of understanding what life insurance can do with respect to taxation, with respect to income planning and retirement. Life insurance is treated differently in the Internal Revenue Code than anything else. You could put money into a life insurance policy. That money can grow tax deferred. You can borrow it out tax free, never repay it, and the remaining death benefit gets paid to your beneficiaries tax free. So we've been able to generate multi-generational plans by using life insurance. Here's an example. We have had a couple that came in and they said, okay, we've got all this excess money. They actually inherited a pile of money, and they wanted the inheritance from the grandparents, their parents, to go to their kids and their grandkids. So basically passing from one generation down 3 generations to the 4th generation, to the great-grandchildren of the grandparents who passed away. So they said, we want a unique way of how can we do this? So we developed a gifting strategy, and they have 4 children. 3 of the children have children. One of them isn't married yet. But the gifting strategy was, okay, let's have the kids as the insured. They will also own these things because we're gifting it away. But we were able to fund those with after-tax dollars. That money is growing tax-free, but we overfunded them. What overfunding? Here's what overfunding means. That means, like I just said earlier, when we typically buy life insurance, we buy the greatest amount of death benefit for the least amount of premium. Overfunding means we flip that completely upside down, and we want to buy the least amount of death benefit for the highest amount of premium. Why would we do that? Because of the tax benefit of life insurance. We're going to use this as a generator of tax-free income, whether you're in retirement or not in retirement. So we were able to fund these policies for the 4 kids by using the money from the grandparents. Then what happens is this money is going to grow tax deferred in their plans. Then as they need it for a down payment on a home, if they need to fund their kids' education, they can pull all that money out tax free and be able to do that and really do things in their life that their parents will see and that their grandparents will be pleased that they provided that opportunity for these kids and their great grandkids, their grandchildren, and their great grandchildren to live the life that they would always want them to live. So it's a tremendous opportunity to do something like that. More importantly, what about yourself? What about you as an individual out there? How can you use life insurance to create tax-free income in retirement? Here's how you do it. You put a very similar plan into place. And the kind of life insurance, there are all kinds of different life insurance policies out there. The kind that we're talking about is called Indexed Universal Life, IUL. And you hear about this, and it works very effectively when it fits. And it's a life insurance policy that is not invested in the market. The money is tied to market performance. So you can get a portion of the upside, maybe 11 or 12%, but you never lose money in these. And it locks in each year. So you're either going up or staying flat in your investment portfolio inside the life insurance policy. Then you put this money in, it grows tax deferred, you borrow it out, and it's another way to get lifetime income, which is tax-free in your retirement years. It's another way to diversify your tax diversification. And a lot of people talk about diversification. They're always thinking about investments. We talk a lot about tax diversification because we want to expose you to what you can do tax-wise to pay less to the IRS throughout your retirement years.
Gerry, one more time, a quick plug for the fish fry and for trivia night coming up. Where can we find you?
We know Our Lady of the Pillar, located on Lindbergh Boulevard, right by Chaminade High School, right off of basically between Highway 40 and Ladue. We are located right there next to Chaminade, 4:30 to 7:30 every Friday during Lent, including Good Friday. Come by and see us. We'd love to feed your soul by feeding you cod, salmon, or shrimp. And then Camp Braveways is for kids with cancer, families affected by kids with pediatric cancer. We provide free camping for them, summer camps for the families, for the kids affected by cancer, for their siblings throughout the year. It's going to be March 21st, 6 p.m. at St. Margaret Mary Alacoa in South County. Look at campbraveways.com to get registered.
Well, Gerry, as always, thank you. Thank you for the information and the education this weekend. We are back next weekend, but before we get out of here, Gerry Ricken, take us home.
Every day is a holiday. Life is short. Laugh hard.
This has been Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.